On a quiet afternoon in the heart of London, a single unscripted speech shattered centuries of royal protocol. It did not come from Buckingham Palace, nor did it bear the traditional stamp of the reigning king. Instead, Prince William stood before a stunned audience at Kensington Palace and made a declaration that instantly rewrote the future of the British monarchy. With a single powerful sentence, the Prince of Wales introduced a new leader to the global stage, a move that left courtiers speechless and sent shockwaves through the royal establishment. As cameras captured the moment, a young Princess Charlotte took her very first step into official state duty. This bold step has ignited an intense debate over the balance of power inside the palace. What does this historic shift mean for King Charles, for Queen Camilla, and for the long-term survival of the House of Windsor? Join us as we go behind the palace gates to unpack how centuries of royal tradition have officially collided with a brand new era of power. Before we dive into the deep tensions unfolding behind the scenes, do you have friends who closely follow the royal family? If you do, let us know by typing 1 in the comments below. If not, type 0. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all major royal developments. The unseen tension at Kensington Palace. The manicured lawns of Kensington Palace Gardens usually project an image of absolute serenity. On this particular summer afternoon, the setting seemed entirely typical. The air was warm, a gentle breeze rustled the historic hedges, and a crowd of reporters, photographers, and invited guests gathered for what was billed as a standard charity reception. The media expected the usual delightful but predictable headlines: photos of Princess Charlotte smiling, Prince George waving politely, and perhaps a brief, polite statement about youth community initiatives. Behind the scenes, however, the atmosphere was thick with anxiety. Senior aides were spotted huddled in intense whispered conversations just off stage. The typical relaxed energy of a summer garden party was entirely missing. When the Prince and Princess of Wales finally emerged, the shift in dynamics was immediately obvious to seasoned royal observers. Prince William walked with a rigid, absolute determination. Beside him, Princess Catherine was a portrait of steady support, her hand resting gently on Charlotte's shoulder to offer silent encouragement. Prince George walked slightly to the side, carrying himself with a quiet maturity that seemed to exceed his young age. When William stepped up to the microphone, he did not look at a pre-approved script from the palace press office. He did not offer the standard, safe pleasantries that usually define these events. Instead, a deep, unmistakable intensity filled his voice. A declaration that shocked the palace. William looked out at the gathered crowd, took a slow, steadying breath, and delivered an announcement that no one in the crowd or the wider royal household saw coming. "We are beginning a new chapter today," William stated, his voice carrying clearly across the quiet gardens. "A chapter that honors our rich history while actively building a modern path forward. In remembering my late grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, and her deep, lifelong hopes for this institution, my immediate family will now play a much larger role in shaping our future. Today, I am proud to share that my daughter, Princess Charlotte, will officially begin her duties as a formal representative of the crown." A sudden collective gasp went through the crowd. Journalists and photographers quickly scrambled to capture the historic moment. Even the veteran courtiers standing on the sidelines looked completely caught off guard. This was not a minor update, it was a profound shift in the royal hierarchy. Despite her young age, Princess Charlotte took a confident step forward, her composure capturing the attention of everyone present. Her parents' steady, supportive presence on either side of her made it clear that this was a carefully planned decision to prepare her for real, long-term responsibilities. Yet, as the crowd began to process the news, a glaring detail hung over the entire event. King Charles and Queen Camilla were completely absent, and Buckingham Palace had issued absolutely no coordinating statement. The silence from the king's office was deafening, confirming that a major restructuring of power was actively unfolding from within the palace. The decline of the old guard. For several months leading up to that dramatic afternoon, quiet murmurs had been circulating through the corridors of Whitehall and the administrative offices of the royal households. The older, traditional ways of managing the monarchy were increasingly seen as out of step with a modern, rapidly changing society. The public was no longer satisfied with a passive royal family resting on the historic legacy of Queen Elizabeth II. They wanted an active, relatable institution. Although King Charles had waited decades to ascend the throne, his reign had quickly begun to feel heavy. The immense physical and emotional demands of the crown, the constant state visits, the endless piles of official paperwork, and the heavy ceremonial duties seemed to be taking a visible toll on his energy. In contrast, William and Catherine were enjoying a massive wave of public support. National polls consistently ranked the Prince and Princess of Wales as the most trusted, admired, and popular members of the royal family. Wherever they traveled, massive, enthusiastic crowds gathered, breathing fresh energy into the monarchy. With every public appearance, William and Catherine made it clear they were not content to simply wait in the wings. They were actively stepping up, focusing their efforts on modern, high-impact issues like mental health awareness, early childhood development, and environmental conservation. In doing so, they were quietly moving the monarchy away from rigid, outdated practices that no longer served a practical purpose. Behind the closed doors of Clarence House, however, these changes were viewed with deep concern. Senior advisors to the king and queen consort whispered about backroom discussions regarding how royal duties were allocated and how the future line of succession was being presented to the public. These discussions were kept highly private, yet the underlying tension was becoming impossible to hide. The rising influence of Princess Charlotte. Reports began to emerge that William had been taking a highly independent approach to his role, holding private, high-level discussions with senior Commonwealth officials without the traditional coordination of Buckingham Palace. Sources also whispered that Catherine had taken several informal advisory roles within the family estate, duties that historically belonged strictly to the reigning monarch or the queen consort. Most surprising of all were the rumors that young Princess Charlotte had already begun participating in media preparation and communication briefings at Kensington Palace. She was reportedly being introduced to the inner workings of public relations at an even earlier age than her older brother, Prince George. While some commentators dismissed these reports as mere speculation, Queen Camilla was said to be watching these developments with an incredibly sharp, protective eye, eager to safeguard her own standing within the family. Tensions had reached a peak weeks earlier when William decided to skip an important administrative meeting hosted by King Charles in London. Instead, the prince traveled to Manchester to visit a specialized children's cancer ward. The widespread positive media coverage of William's compassionate hospital visit completely overshadowed the king's formal event in London. Many veteran royal analysts viewed the scheduling conflict as a subtle, calculated display of independence. While not an open rebellion, it certainly added to the growing friction regarding the transition of authority. While Prince George remains the direct heir to the throne, Princess Charlotte's rapid development and natural confidence are reshaping the future royal landscape. She has quickly become a central figure in the public's view of the modern monarchy. Her poise, intelligence, and comfortable presence in front of the cameras have earned her frequent comparisons to her late grandmother, Princess Diana. King Charles's quiet struggle. William's bold, independent announcement made one thing absolutely clear. The future of the monarchy is arriving much faster than expected. While King Charles remains the official head of state, the practical reality is that he is slowly, quietly stepping back from some of the more demanding physical aspects of his role. In the weeks prior to the Kensington Palace announcement, highly placed sources revealed that the king had become increasingly withdrawn, canceling several public engagements due to severe fatigue. Behind closed doors, a quiet crisis was unfolding, forcing senior staff to constantly adapt and rewrite long-term operational plans. King Charles, known throughout his life for his incredibly strict schedules and workaholic nature, was finding it difficult to accept his physical limitations. Initially, royal spokespeople tried to downplay the situation, explaining that the king was merely taking a temporary rest after a highly demanding inaugural year. However, those working within the royal households knew the situation was much more complex. The king was struggling with his energy levels, and the physical constraints were causing him deep personal frustration. For over 70 years, Charles had prepared to lead, yet now that he was on the throne, he often found himself overshadowed by the immense popularity of his eldest son and daughter-in-law. While William and Catherine were met with roaring crowds and widespread praise, Charles's public appearances often felt formal and distant. This contrast was particularly difficult for Camilla, whose position as queen consort still generated occasional public debate and division. As public preference for the Wales family continued to grow, the atmosphere within the palace walls became increasingly strained. King Charles reportedly held several difficult meetings with his personal advisors to discuss how to manage William's rising public profile. Some sources suggested that the king, recognizing his physical limits, was quietly considering a gradual, structured transfer of certain public duties to William as part of a broader plan to modernize the institution. This strategy was said to have roots in the final months of Queen Elizabeth II's life, during which she reportedly encouraged Charles to work closely with William to ensure a smooth, collaborative transition of duty. However, Queen Camilla was strongly opposed to any shift in focus away from her and Charles. Both Charles and Camilla had endured decades of intense public scrutiny and personal challenges to finally reach the throne. For Camilla, the idea of stepping back or allowing their authority to be minimized by the younger generation was unacceptable. She viewed the rapid rise of William and Catherine as a direct challenge to the authority of her husband's reign. Yet, despite her resistance, the momentum of change could not be stopped. The king appeared increasingly unable to halt the shifting tide. As he spent more time resting at quiet royal estates, a leadership void began to form, and William, driven by duty and a clear vision, stepped into that void with absolute confidence. The image of a completely unified royal family was beginning to show clear, undeniable divisions. Major royal events increasingly showcased William, Catherine, and their children as the true functioning core of the modern British monarchy. The impact of the Kensington Palace announcement. When William stood before the microphones in the gardens of Kensington, he was fully aware of the significance of the moment. The audience had arrived expecting a simple, pleasant speech about local charity work, but they witnessed a powerful assertion of leadership instead. William began by paying a deeply respectful tribute to Queen Elizabeth II, highlighting her lifelong commitment to public service and her unique ability to guide the nation through times of profound change. This was a clever strategic move, aligning his own modern vision with the historic legacy of the late queen, effectively drawing strength from her long reign to validate his current decisions. "Our voice must ignite a new beginning," William declared, his words resonating with absolute clarity. "Not by turning our backs on the rich traditions that define us, but allowing them to naturally evolve. The crown is not a static relic to be kept behind glass. It is a living, breathing promise of continuous service, and that promise belongs entirely to the future." With those words, William turned and introduced his daughter. It is with this exact promise in mind that Princess Charlotte will soon begin her first official public duties. She will begin attending select engagements alongside her mother, learning the practical meaning of service and helping to shape a fresh, modern vision for our family and our country. The announcement sent a shockwave through the royal community. It made it clear that Charlotte was not going to be kept in the shadow of her brother, Prince George. Instead, she was being prepared for a prominent, active role within the working monarchy, establishing her as a significant figure in her own right. Camilla's quiet isolation. As the public and international media reacted with overwhelming enthusiasm about Charlotte's new role, the atmosphere inside Clarence House became incredibly tense. For Camilla, this development represented a direct threat to the traditional hierarchy she had worked so hard to preserve. Over many years, Camilla had dedicated herself to rebuilding her public image, transforming herself from a highly controversial figure into a respected, hard-working queen consort. She had navigated decades of media scrutiny to secure her place beside the king. Now, as the public focus shifted dramatically to a charismatic young princess and the highly popular Princess of Wales, Camilla felt her hard-won influence starting to diminish. In an effort to assert control, Camilla reportedly called an urgent meeting with senior communications advisors and household staff. Her goal was to reestablish strict protocols, ensuring that all major announcements and public initiatives were funneled directly through Buckingham Palace to keep Kensington Palace's independent operations in check. However, when she asked King Charles to intervene and support her efforts, the king reportedly declined to take action. Looking tired and accepting of the reality of their situation, he is said to have told her simply, "Let it unfold. It has already begun." Without the king's active backing, Camilla found herself increasingly isolated within the palace infrastructure. A noticeable shift in loyalty was taking place among the staff. Younger, ambitious aides who had previously served the king and queen began looking for opportunities to work with William and Catherine's team, recognizing where the true future of the institution lay. Even international diplomats were starting to direct their primary inquiries to Kensington Palace, quietly acknowledging the practical shift in influence. Catherine's long-term strategy. While the media remained focused on William's announcement and Princess Charlotte's historic step forward, many overlooked the quiet, highly strategic influence of Princess Catherine. Known for her impeccable poise, grace, and calm demeanor, Catherine had spent over a decade quietly studying the complex dynamics of the royal court. She understood that surviving and thriving within the institution required patience, careful planning, and an unwavering connection to the public. Now, her long-term strategy was producing clear results. Catherine had successfully transitioned from a supportive royal partner to an indispensable pillar of the monarchy's future. While Camilla focused on securing traditional status, Catherine focused on building deep, genuine affection with the public. Her popularity was built on authentic human interactions. Whether she was visiting a community center, speaking with a worried parent at a children's hospital, or sharing glimpses of her own family life, Catherine projected warmth and accessibility. Behind the closed doors of Kensington Palace, Catherine was William's most trusted advisor. In the high-stakes days following the garden announcement, as Camilla sought to push back, Catherine remained entirely calm, refusing to engage in public or private disputes. When subtly questioned by reporters during a solo engagement, she simply offered a warm smile and said nothing, letting her serene composure speak for itself. Every evening, she and William carefully reviewed public feedback and media coverage, planning each subsequent step with absolute precision. Building a lasting legacy. It was rumored that months before the garden announcement, Catherine had quietly commissioned independent research to understand public sentiment regarding an expanded role for Princess Charlotte. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, showing that the public was eager to see a modern, active young princess representing the crown. Armed with this information, William and Catherine proceeded with absolute confidence, knowing their actions aligned with the genuine desires of the public. For Catherine, this was never about personal ambition or vying for control within the family. It was a carefully considered protective plan designed to ensure the long-term stability of the monarchy for her children. Catherine fully understood that the monarchy could no longer rely solely on deference and ancient titles. To remain relevant in a rapidly changing world, the institution had to show that it was listening, evolving, and actively contributing to society. In Princess Charlotte, Catherine saw the perfect combination of qualities needed for the future: natural compassion, sharp intelligence, steady leadership, and a quiet, resilient inner strength. Through years of dedication and an unblemished public record, Catherine had earned her position as a central decision-maker within the family. She had emerged as the true, modern protector of the crown's legacy, initiating real, lasting change from within the very heart of the palace. The birth of a new era. As the excitement from the Kensington Palace announcement began to settle, the future of the British monarchy appeared clearer and more defined than ever before. The core team of Prince William, Princess Catherine, Princess Charlotte, and Prince George had stepped forward, presenting a unified, confident front to the world. Princess Charlotte, navigating her transition into the public eye with remarkable grace, quickly captured the imagination of the global public. Her natural poise, combined with her unmistakable resemblance to both Princess Diana and her late great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, resonated deeply with royal followers worldwide. Her new, carefully managed duties marked the beginning of a significant transition, moving from a protected childhood into an active, essential role in the crown's next chapter. Beside her, Prince George remained a quiet, highly observant presence. While his younger sister took the immediate spotlight, George's calm, steady demeanor reflected the quiet preparation of a future king. This modern presentation of the royal family was not just about performing ceremonial tasks, it was about presenting a family deeply committed to guiding the nation with honesty, transparency, and genuine humility. William and Catherine were quietly but firmly leading the monarchy into an entirely new era, sending a clear, powerful message to the world. The future of the crown relies entirely on public trust, emotional connection, and visible daily integrity, not just on ancient bloodlines or inherited titles. While King Charles III and Queen Camilla retained their formal titles, the actual balance of influence had shifted decisively toward Kensington Palace. A profound generational change was actively underway, capturing the hearts and minds of a new generation of royal supporters across the globe. As Princess Charlotte and Prince George begin to embrace their future responsibilities, one truth became absolutely undeniable. The crown was not merely surviving the challenges of the modern era, it was being actively reborn by those who would carry it forward. What do you think about this major shift in the royal family? Will this new generation successfully modernize the monarchy, or will the old guard find a way to maintain control? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for the very latest updates on the royal family. Stay tuned because this story is only just beginning.